It was January 2020. It was a time when Corona came around the corner. And it was the last time when we had our last shareholder annual meeting in person in the Olympia Hall in Munich. And I have to say, this was a hall, or is a hall, it's much bigger than this one. There are around 40,000 people in the hall. And we had great results. And during the Q&A session, there was an analyst who asked our CEO, at that time Joe Kaeser, and he asked him, "Hey Joe, can you tell us a little bit more about the impact of this virus in your supply chain?" And this very moment, I felt Joe was looking at me, because I was sitting in the front row, as you do normally, as you are in the management. And he paused for a second. And then he said, "Well, you know, we have very smart and intelligent people within supply chain and procurement, and they have everything under control." This was the moment where I thought, whoops, we have nothing under control. We simply didn't know what's going on. So why I'm telling you the story, the story is, since that time, I got so many questions around, when do we have the new normal? Or do we have a new normal? Or what is the new normal? Okay? And maybe you have the same experiences. And I said, look, there is no new normal. The unexpected will be the new normal. And since Corona, we had many, many other unexpected topics. We have global conflicts, we have the trade race, inshoring, offshoring, nearshoring, we have the environmental countdown. We see that sustainability moves from nice to have, over good to have, to must have. We see AI is coming around. So the question is, what's the consequence? How do we move forward? How do we be prepared for all the unexpected? And I have to say, the unexpected is not always bad, because we love to have this sequence of events, be it Corona, be it the global conflicts and alike. Why? Because it puts us into the position that we are now on the agenda of the CEOs. For many years, we worked like hell to really be relevant for the business. Now it's so obvious that supply chain and procurement can make a difference. So that's the beauty of the stuff. But the point is, how do we move forward? And in the next few minutes, I would like to talk to you about how do we see the future within Siemens, how we use data and AI right now, what do we see in regarding of mindset and leadership which is needed to transform the function. And finally, I hope I can inspire you with some ideas to make your life maybe easier tomorrow. So let's start. How do we see the future? I know there are so many companies, they use procurement as a cost cutter. And we strongly believe we can add more value. So what does that mean? If we talk about our value creation, there are 5 major topics which we can drive. Productivity, of course, stay in the arena. Productivity will never go away. Innovation is also relevant. We can use the innovation power of our suppliers more than we did in the past. Just to give you a number, we have in our supplier base more than 65,000 suppliers on tier 1 level. And we have a spend around 35 billion euros. So there must be an innovation power out there, but within Siemens, we always think there is no intelligent life outside Siemens. So we have to really get this into our organization and set up processes that the innovation finds us. Quality is another topic. Maybe you experience that at the moment in some of the automotive industries. For us, luckily, we are very stable on the quality side, but quality is also a brutal must and creates fundamental value for the business. And then I come to the other two topics, which I believe are really, really relevant at the moment and also in the future. That's resilience and sustainability. Resilience, if you see all these geopolitical tensions and conflicts, it's no longer good enough to have an overview about your single source and your second source situation, which I believe is not so easy to calculate or to analyze. Now it's even more relevant that you find out where is your single source. If your single source is in the wrong region, you can no longer serve your customer in the regions you want to serve. Any kind of executive order from the Chinese or US president can change supply chains overnight. So you have to balance your supply chain, you have to balance your supplier base. And this is not so easy because when it comes to resilience, there might be a sole or a single source in your tier 3 or 4 level, which you do not have under control. So what I'm trying to say, when we want to manage resilience, we also need a brutal transparency that we are able to act. And finally, sustainability is not only CO2 emissions. Sustainability is also fundamental topics, in our view, fundamental topics like code of conduct. Has every supplier signed the code of conduct? Sounds a little bit easy, but it's not. If you have a huge supplier base, and you want to make sure that everybody has signed the code of conduct, massive effort. Has every supplier gone through the ready for business process? Is also a fundamental topic which we manage under the umbrella of sustainability. And sustainability under the focus of CO2 emissions, Scope 3 upstream, I can imagine many of you have the same challenge. The challenge is transparency. The challenge is get the right activities and how do we move forward. And what is the carbon footprint of the supplier? What is the product carbon footprint? I touch on that in a few minutes. So if you see this transformation process from cost cutter to value creator, there are two axes. One axis is digitalization and AI. We got to use these tools and these processes, otherwise we cannot manage the transformation process. Integration into the business is also very relevant because we have to earn our place at the decision table. Yesterday I heard in one of the presentations, yes, we have to be more present on the C-level. And I said, if you wait for the invitation for the decision table, that probably takes too much time. So we have to come up with ideas how we can create value for the business. And this is definitely more than just cost cutting. So what are the key drivers for our transformation process? And the data and the data management is one of the key drivers, or maybe is the key driver in our transformation process. Data in that transformation process is really the fuel, and it creates transparency, it creates facts and figures. And the simple thing is, if you have data without a smart analytics, it's just damn data. And we see a lot of analytics out there, but they probably do not have the right quality of the data. And that's the other point, the other challenge. If you have a smart analytics without good data, it's no value. And that was a challenge we were facing over the last years because we realized we have tons of data, maybe not in the right quality. And we have tons of guys around us, and I saw some of them out there, they have good ideas. So how do we bring these good ideas together with the right data quality? I have to tell you, this is not so easy, because all the guys who have good ideas, they come to us, to Siemens, and say, hey, I can do the trick with you. And sometimes the people underestimate a little bit the complexity we have. And sometimes the belief is, if I can make it with Siemens, I can make it everywhere. That creates a challenge per se. So what we did, and I show you an example. We use our data lakes, we use our huge data management, brought it together with AI-driven decision, and put it into a platform. So what does that mean? We used our digital twin technology, which we luckily have in-house. So that's the twin technology you see on the left. We have a digital technology where you can create a digital product twin. And just to give you a concrete example, and I have this little fire detector here with me. So this is a fire detector. This is the stuff we produce in a lot size of 600,000 pieces a year. For that, we have roughly 25 suppliers, and they deliver us with 60 different items. Okay? So before we produce the stuff, we use our twin technology to create a digital product twin. And this is really a digital twin. It's photorealistic. So that's the reason why we work together with NVIDIA. Maybe you heard about that. It's really as it is a physical product. Then we can create a digital production twin. So that means, how do we produce the stuff? We can also include in these production twin brownfield manufacturing sites. So without producing it, you can simulate it, how you can produce it. And the next step is you can test it. That's the performance twin. Without producing it, without testing it, you can do it all in the virtual environment where we put the real and the digital world together. Not in sequence, you can do it in parallel. This is a huge expertise we use also within procurement, and based on the technology from our colleagues, we developed 10 years ago the digital cost twin. So in other words, we can exactly calculate what is the material cost, what are the labor costs, what are the process costs, what are the logistic costs in each and every piece in that. We do this since 10 years, or more than 10 years. We do it every year with a purchasing volume around 10 to 11 billion euros. So you can imagine which kind of data lake we created over the last 10 years. There are millions of data points in our data lakes. So the next step we did, based on the digital cost twin, we created a digital green twin. So now we can analyze the CO2 emission of all these pieces which are inside. So whenever we talk now to a supplier, we know exactly what are the costs for example, the detector housing, for the labyrinth, for the carrier, for the PCB, for example. And that puts us sometimes in the position that we have a better transparency about the cost calculation than the supplier has. And an amazing transparency. And the next step, I show you that, is once we want to have a more detailed view on different items which we buy from the supplier, we can also get cost breakdowns if we, for example, use an app maybe you can put on the PCB, and in a second you get the cost breakdown and you get the bill of material. This took in the past weeks. So when we talk about 10x factors, I would say this is kind of a 10x factor, which shows transparency and also gives the next level of decision making. So what you also can do with the green digital twin now, maybe you are familiar with the EPD, Environmental Product Declaration, which you probably need for some of your products, or at least we need it more and more. You can also generate a, I would say, more or less automated EPD out of the green digital twin. but your input data must be on a high quality level. So this is a little bit the idea of this using data, of using AI-driven technology to make our life within procurement, together with the supplier, easier and more efficient. So the next criteria, the next ingredients you need if you want to have a successful transformation, and also if you want to use AI-driven decision guidance and the like, you need the right digital mindset. And the right digital mindset is not so easy to explain. I mean, there are a lot of books out there who explain to you what you have to do. And we introduced a couple of years before I would say, more or less AI-driven, guiding-driven system for our strategic buyers. So we call it companion. So what does the system did? The system gave the strategic buyer the next best action in his supplier base. For example, which supplier should you renegotiate? Which supplier should be requalified? Which supplier has the wrong price level and the like? We thought it is great for our people. We thought we can free up resources, then the people can use this time for more strategic tasks. But what we experienced, the people felt that this system is working like a supervisor. We see that the system is not in use because it didn't make the life easier for the people. They felt we take out their personal knowledge, and finally the system crashed. So then we did another attempt and found Mika. So Mika is again an AI-driven system based on ChatGPT and internal databases. You can put in any kind of question, as you see here on the top line, and you get in second an answer how you can argue with your supplier. You get facts and figures, you get charts who support your decision. And this is not something what we want to do. This is already in place. And why is this so relevant? Because now we see that people are using it because it is easy to use. It makes their life easier. And I think this is one of the key elements when you think about the digital mindset. How can we make life easier? How can we turn AI from a threat to an opportunity? And I know, easily said, not so easy really to manage that. And that brings me to the last piece here, and that's the digital leadership. And again, I know there's so many books out there who explain to you what's needed from digital leadership perspective, and I have to tell you, in a huge company like Siemens, it's typically the same stuff. If we want to do a transformation process, it's quite clear. We are going to make a program. Once we have a program, we go and communicate to our people on a top-down perspective, and we roll it out top-down, and then we wait what happens. Maybe not true for your company, but that was a typical approach we had within Siemens. And then I said, hey, wait a minute. By the way, do you know the principal law of communication? Always the receiver decides which message is understood, never the sender, okay? We always said we are sending like hell, give people direction, and it must work. In that case, we turn around and say, why don't we try it bottom up? We created a so-called Digi network. We invited people, voluntary, self-motivated, self-organized, to talk about digital solutions in their environment. And we started off with a few people, and over the time, We had more than 200 people in the organization on a global level, and they constantly talk about digitalization. And there were a lot of good ideas which are coming out. And now people embrace these digital solutions more than it was possible when we send it out from top down. And that's the reason why I strongly believe this digital leadership is pretty simple. Yeah? You should make sure that AI is seen as a colleague and not as a supervisor. You really give people freedom to act. Also, sounds pretty simple and easy, but let people go is, in a huge organization like Siemens, a challenge. And the last piece, and I think that's really vital and crucial, it's this famous scaling. We also saw so many good ideas, we saw so many good pilot cases and proof of concept cases and what have you. And I know not each and every company can cool pilot cases, but the real good companies can scale on a global level and can scale like hell. And you, as a leader, you should support the people that they are able to scale. Because then, if you can scale on a global base, you get all the impact you expect. Otherwise, it's just a pilot case. And I tell you, in the next week comes another pilot case, and over next week, the next pilot case. But there must be a point where you say, okay, let's go and scale. Investing and iterating. This is so relevant. And if these three circles really come together and turn together and work together, then I'm really convinced that you can transform the organization from a cost cutter to a true value creator. And yeah, maybe that's the last slide. And I hope I have been able to give you some ideas to turn these kind of threatening things here into a partnership and keep finding ways to swim with the sharks, because we all know you cannot outswim the sharks. Thank you.